here is jam, if you're jam illiterate. After finishing Way of Kings, I suddenly really want jam. If you've read Way of Kings, you'll know what I mean. Like, I just want jam. Like, it's the antidote to everything, provided Yasna doesn't touch it with stupid stuff. Hello everyone, my name is May, and welcome back to me. So, I have just finished listening to Way of Kings for the second time after, I first read it, I think in 2018. I'm trying to read it so I can read Oathbringers so that I can be ready for Rhythm of War. I've decided that the thing with Way of Kings is, if you hadn't realized, it's about 1,200 pages. I know I'm probably going to have to reread this book again in the course of time, given it's going to be a 10-book series. So I thought to at least maybe have to dull down the amount of times that I'm going to have to go back. Despite that it's such a fantastic book and I would read it again, it does take so long, oh my gosh. Having said that, I did read it in kind of 5 days, so I'm pretty proud of myself. I thought that first off, I might give my spoiler-free review as the beginning part, and then people can all go away and I can chat through what happens in Way of Kings. All of us who want to read Words of Radiance or more books but don't really remember what happened in Way of Kings can just watch this, including myself, and be like, oh, that's what happened. Awesome. And so because I need to make some scones, some more scones, because I've made some, they're in the background, but I need to make some more to take to a cocktail party that I have to leave for in an hour, I thought that I might go through this, try and get this done, make some scones, it'll be a good time. Let's do it. Let's make some scones. So, if you've never read Way of Kings, let's give a little bit of a synopsis. In Way of Kings, we follow several different points of character. 4 main points of view, which I'm going to talk about, are Dalinar, Shallan, Kaladin, and Zes Sansan Velaro. This book opens with 2 prologues, because you can open with 2 prologues if you're Brandon Sanderson. The first one seems to be a bunch of dudes with big old knives, and they've killed off some beasties, and apparently they kind of want to basically strike some kind of bargain. I really don't know. I think this is going to just be a massive foreshadowing to a lot of other stuff that happens, but when you read Way of Kings by itself, it doesn't really make sense. That's okay. Moving on to the second prologue. So the second prologue is set at a treaty which is happening between the Alethi and the Pashendi. And now, for some strange reason, the Pashendi have decided to hire an assassin to kill the king of the Alethi on the day of the treaty signing. And so the first point of view that we get is following Seth Zanzan Velaro, as he is the assassin in white, killing the king, and obviously stopping the treaty from working. I actually have written some notes, so I'm going to try and do that. This book is epic fantasy, so to kind of set it so you know what we're really talking about. Multiple different races, different types of races of what people look like, where people live, what people expect to be things. Especially the 2 races that this book follows are the Alethi and the Pashendi. So the Pashendi seem to be people that regrow armor. They have certain different forms that they take, and I think that humans are pretty weird because they can't regrow forms. Multiple different colored skins, and also the way the Pashendi communicate, they don't really use emotion like we do. Basically, they sing to the way they speak is by singing to different tunes. So they might sing to amazement, sing to embarrassment, hum to lots of different, and that's the way they communicate. They have a musical speech, basically, which isn't really touched on very much in this book, but if you want to get into this book, that's the kind of stuff this series has in store for you. The Alethi are a bunch of hierarchical people, so there are the Light Eyes and the Dark Eyes, and the Light Eyes rule over all the Dark Eyes. There are a few ways that a Light Eyes can become a Dark Eyes, but mostly that's by becoming a Shard Bearer. So basically, Shard Plate and Shard Blades are just basically epic, yeah. The land that they live in is also one that's hit fortnightly, once a month, by these massive high storms, and they literally can rip buildings apart, these huge storms. This is actually some of the bringer of the magic in this world. The spheres that they use for currency are recharged and become and glow after a high storm. As you can already see, this is beginning to be quite a complicated plot that's going on already, because it's just quite a crazy setting that's there. The Alethi have a really complicated society as well. Males and females don't eat the same type of food. Females don't show one of their hands. I think it's their left hand. A safe hand, and seen as improper and immodest to show your left hand. The idea being behind this that, all proper ladies can do all of the talents with just one hand, and so then it became the idea that, well, you don't show your other hand. There are so many details about this book that it's really hard to kind of go into more. The book then opens up to our next point of view, which is Kaladin. Kaladin was a trained surgeon as a child, but now he seems to be in the army, taking care of lots of the young recruits. Anyway, then it seems something happens, because we suddenly cut to 8 months later. Kaladin has a slave mark, and he's been labelled a deserter, and he's in a slave cart off to a place called the Shattered Plains, where all the Alethi fighting all the Pashendi. Yeah. Also, they're fighting these massive cavern beasts and trying to steal gem hearts that are inside the cavern beasts to use them to create things like soulcasters, which we will get into. We then meet our next point of view character, which is Shallan. Now, Shallan is on a boat trying to track down this massively famous scholar called Yasna Colin. Yasna is a heretic. She has decided that God doesn't exist, and so she's both revered for her amazing scholarly attributes, but also people are like, what is wrong with her? Shallan, though, has ulterior motives other than just wanting to be a ward underneath this woman and study under her. She also wants to steal this woman's soulcaster because her entire family is in debt. She's a light eyes, but she's kind of a lower ranking light eyes. Then on to our final point of view, which is Dalinar. Now, Dalinar is the uncle to the king. His brother was the one killed by Sensan Valaro in the assassination. Meet him and the king as they're on a big scouting party, and basically the king thinks he's being killed. He sees assassins everywhere. Dalinar is a man of really high morals, really high standards. He has 2 sons, one of which is an amazing fighter and one of which isn't really. He really should just be a priest. But Dalinar's problem is that at the minute, every single time a high storm comes, he's been having visions, weird visions, and everyone thinks he's going crazy, but he is convinced that he's getting visions from the Almighty that are telling him to unite Alethkar, unite the Alethi people. The story begins to unfold more as Kaladin begins to be spoken to by a little Spren. Now, Spren are something in this world that basically infect everything. There can be Joy Spren and Glory Spren and Death Spren and Intoxication Spren, like anything. But he starts to be spoken to by a Wind Spren, and that kind of sets a lot of this stuff all in motion as all of our characters go on massive character arcs. Now, I thought that maybe the best way to do this was to take our 4 points of view and just kind of talk about what is covered in the book, where they start, where they end up. I need to quickly get some milk. Get in there. Curdle. Whoop, that's too much. Too much. You can pour it back, right? No? Okay. She's fine. Good. Curdle. So, if you have not read this book, please now leave, because now we're going to start talking spoilers, and basically we're now doing a speed through review of what happened for those of us who want to read the next books but we don't remember what happened in Way of Kings. Bye, and hello to everyone who's still here. Alrighty, so basically, let's start out with our good old assassin in white. Kind of is traded by a few different masters. We kind of learn that he's a bit of an outcast from his people. His oath stone means that he must obey anyone who has his oath stone. 2 things he's not allowed to do, that if they tell him to do it, give him his blade or kill himself. So, looks as though he's kind of got a bit of a sad lot going on there. But he finally makes his way into being captive by someone who wants him to kill a bunch of princes and kings. And his orders are kind of to not do it prettily, to make it a big deal. Goes and he does that, and we see especially him being really traumatized, I think, by a lot of this is what's happening. And I'm really interested to see where his plot goes, because he's just a character that, man, he's being, like, brutalized by his brain while he's committing incredibly high acts of killing. That's a word. That's homicide. While he's committing these massive acts of homicide, he's kind of like being tortured by his own brain about it. But on this long list of people he's given to kind of track down and kill, the final one actually is the person who hired him. This person tells him that he should go and kill Dalinar. So that's kind of where we wrap up with him, is going to kill Dalinar. Yay. I love going to kill Dalinar. I'm interested to see where that goes. I don't really remember, because I have read Words of Radiance, but I don't remember. In case you guys wanted to know, these scones are kind of, currently they're at the crumble stage. It's the stage I really hate. I really hate having stuff like this on my hands, but that's what we're dealing with at the minute. Next point of view that we're going to go from is Dalinar. So Dalinar, as previously mentioned, is currently seeing visions from the Almighty, and he's also reading from this book called The Way of Kings, because in his brother's blood, Sansan Valaro wrote, "Brother, you must find the most important words that a man can say," which were the last words which the king said. He's busy trying to search what are the most important words that a man can say. He's continuing to receive visions from the Almighty. We see that he's beginning to see stuff from, like, the Knights Radiant and stuff of the Voidbringers and things like that. So it's stuff that's kind of been hinted throughout the whole book, that he's beginning to see stuff like that. At the same time, Navari, or whatever her name is, I've forgotten already. I'm really bad at names, okay? Some of these names seem so similar. Basically, his dead brother's wife, her and him are busy kind of doing a bit of a toe-to-toe dance, because apparently You know, hooking up with your dead brother's wife is just taboo. Well, you know, until the end of the book. Everyone is kind of seeing Dalinar as weak because he seems to be at first putting across that he wants to abdicate. Dalinar is not quite sure if he's going nuts. Oh man, I forgot to put the egg in this. No! No! I'm like not pro at cooking, okay? I am not pro at baking. Quickly mix that in, shall we? Ew, 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 ew. Ew, this was definitely not done in the right order. I think this recipe doesn't have enough flour in it, TBH. I'm as honest as I come. Oh, that's fine. We're just gonna put in more flour. Wow, it's a lot of flour. It's fine. It's good. It's fine. Dalinar kind of threats to give up his position and abdicate, and Adolin is all like, no, don't do that. That's a stupid idea. He then finally decides that actually instead of leaving the battle, he just wants to win the war, and so he tries to partner up with a bunch of different people to get them to come on assaults with him, but he can convince no one. Meanwhile, the king has decided to promote Sadeas to be High Inquisitor or something, and Sadeas starts doing some real shady shit, which we always knew he was going to. Time to do a little bit of kneading. Dalinar then asks Sadeas if Sadeas would like to join him, despite that he and Sadeas hate each other. They decided they'd protect the king after Gavilar died, so they're like, cool, we'll buddy up, we'll do that. Anyway, they do one run, it's fantastic because Sadeas' bridge crews are amazing for some reason. Then go and they do it again, but this time Sadeas pulls a whoopsie daisies and leaves our good man Dalinar in a bit of a stitch. We then rely on our boys from Bridge Crew who come and save them. Dalinar then gives up Oathbringer to set all of those boys free. He then goes and tells Elhokar to kind of stick it to the man, and he says some amazing one-liners. Also, your mother and I are courting. You might want to get used to that. What a legend. So moving on, let's move right along. Let's move on to Shallan, because I feel like she's probably the next logical progression, because Kaladin is long and complicated and hard. Shallan finally manages to convince Jasnah to take her on. Jasnah takes her for a bit of a teaching lesson on ethics and goes and like kills 2 robbers. Shallan then finally snaps and is like, that's it, I will fucking take your soulcaster. So Shallan takes a soulcaster and is like, how do I get this home? In the meantime, she's being hit on by the whatever they're called. Ardent dude. I forget what his name is. She's being hit on by the Ardent dude who keeps on bringing her jam. She draws the king of the land that her and Jasnah are in, and in the picture she sees a bunch of these weird dudes in the background, and it totally freaks her out. Made even worse by then when she goes to draw Ardent guy before she leaves and sees more of them, and they're everywhere, and she absolutely freaks out. So she runs for it. She goes and tries to hide from them. She's trying to, she has no idea what these things are that are chasing her. She ends up accidentally, whoopsie-daisy, going to Shadesmar, where she meets some of these dudes. She still has no idea what's going on. She then soulcasts her way. Is it soulcast her way out of there? I don't know. Anyway, she ends up soulcasting, but turning something to blood. She thinks it's the soulcaster that she has hidden in her sleeve, so she instead cuts herself to make it look like she didn't just soulcast her way out of something. Jasnah finds her and is like, oh no, she tried to commit suicide, no! She wakes up in a hospital bed, and Jasnah's all like, oh, I'm really sorry, maybe you should go home. And she's like, girl, fantastic, exactly what I was looking for. And Mr. Ardent Man comes in with some bread and jam. Jasnah sniffs the jam and is like, this doesn't smell like strawberry jam, and is like, oh, the jam's gone off. They all have a little bit of bread, and then it turns out that the bread has gone off or something, because guess what, they're all dying. Anyway, so Jasnah doesn't die, but Shallan and the Ardent are incredibly poisoned. So Jasnah is like, I'll have to soulcast your blood to be okay again. But then Shallan's like, no, you can't soulcast because I have your soulcaster. So Shallan reveals the fact that she's stolen the soulcaster. Still at this point not realizing that she doesn't need the soulcaster to soulcast. Jasnah soulcasts her blood clean. She wakes up. Jasnah's super pissed off because she's like, you robbed me, you bitch. Look at these fine specimens. They're going in the oven. Those boys are going in the oven. I've made a massive mess. I'm going to quickly wrap up Shallan, and then I'm going to stop filming and wait till the scones come out, and then I'll give Kaladin while I eat a scone. Jasnah is super annoyed. Shallan tries to explain, but she's like, you have absolutely betrayed me, please get out. Shallan finally puts 2 and 2 together and is like, hang on a second, you didn't need that soulcaster to soulcast, and I accidentally soulcast, and what is this weird place that I went to? Jasnah doesn't believe Shallan that she knows what's going on. Shallan is like, fine, I'll take us to Shadesmar. She talks to these weird shady people she can see, and they ask her for a truth, and she tells them that she killed her father, which is like, bull. We know she grew up in an abusive household, and we kind of knew that her father was dead, and it was kind of a bit weird of why it happened, and that she hates people yelling and arguments and things like that, but like, She killed her dad. Whoa. We don't know the circumstances of how, but that's just an extra little crayon that we have in the box that is Shallan. Yasna is like, well, fine, I guess I'll keep you. You can stay with me, provided you never steal from me again. So as an extra little thing that I think they discovered somewhere along the way, Yasna reveals that the Parshmen are actually the Void Bringers. What did man do? It found the Parshmen too useful. It wouldn't just get rid of them, and so they made them slaves. An extra beautiful bit of impending doom. We kind of leave with those two deciding that they're going to be ward and scholar, and so many things that they've got to work out. Fantastic. Let's go eat this one. So I guess let's talk about good old Kaladin. Kaladin's story, as we know, is like a little bit scattered. We get bits and pieces of his past interwoven with the current point in time. We learn that Kaladin is a surgeon because his father was a surgeon who taught him. He was meant to kind of be married to a low-ranking, light-eyed woman lady, but her father died early, and Kaladin's father swindled this bright lord out of a bunch of spheres, so therefore then he could send Kaladin off to school. His father denies it the whole way, but, you know, we kind of find out, yeah, he did do that. Due to Kaladin's father not being able to save the new lord of the city's kid, Kaladin's younger brother gets conscripted into the war, and Kaladin follows him, promising his parents that he'll keep him safe. We know that he doesn't because his brother Tian ends up dying, and Kaladin ends up being like, well, fine, I'll just be the best soldier I can be. Kaladin then ends up killing a shard bearer, but not wanting the shards at all. He just walks away because he doesn't want to be nobility, basically breaking everybody's mind because to be a shard bearer is literally like the greatest thing. She's pretty good. He's in Amaran's army, and Amaran then steals all the shards for himself and gives Kaladin a slave mark and sends him off as a deserter to cover the theft. We then hit the present time, which is 8 months after that, where Kaladin is now a good old slave, a bridgeman in Sadeas's army at the Shattered Plains. Kaladin obviously makes friends with Syl. He tries to kill himself. Syl is like, no, don't do it. Bring back the Kaladin that used to be there. And he's like, what? How did you know me from before? Kaladin ends up bringing a bunch of the bridge crew over to his side. They kind of all make friends. They go through things of trying to find stuff to heal people, going down to the chasms and learning to train, etc., etc. But in one pinnacle moment, they end up kind of changing their bridge style because they didn't realize that the bridge crew are basically bait and end up ruining one of the battles for Sadeas. Sadeas is super pissed off and has Kaladin hung out in a high storm, which is meant to kill him. Doesn't kill Kaladin though, because he actually is a light person. What is it called? A surge binder. There we go. Because Kaladin's a surge binder. Basically, it's this interesting thing of realizing how much Kaladin doesn't believe there is any good in any light-eyed man. These bits are tested a bit when we have something like Adolin, who helps him to rescue a prostitute who's being beat up by somebody, seeing that Dalinar is actually a good man, but then the continuation of Sadeas being an absolute arsehole, so. They end up recruiting a Parchment into their midst, which I think continues to test Kaladin's prejudice towards people that they don't consider fancy, and it makes Kaladin realize how much even the Dark Eyes despise the Parshmen, realizing the Light Eyes despise the Dark Eyes, and the Dark Eyes despise the Parshmen, and like everyone despises the Parshmen. And continuing, I guess, just to test his assurance in the prejudices that he has. We finally move on to the battle where Sadeas betrays Dalinar, and the Bridge 4 crew decide that they're going to save Dalinar, which is fantastic. And what is fantastic is looking at through all of this, where Kaladin has this firm belief that still Dalinar's gonna screw him over. When Dalinar ends up trading Oathbringer for his freedom, this absolute, like, Kaladin is being swept off his feet by this knight-style thing. Like, he did not expect this in any way, shape, or form. I guess it's really interesting to find someone with as higher morals as Kaladin himself, but still has power. Kaladin's lot is now the bodyguards for the king and Dalinar and stuff like that, which I think is going to end up as really interesting now that Sansan Valaro has been sent to kill Dalinar. But we also have Syl openly admitting that she is the one causing all of what he's doing and that she's an honest friend. So I feel like that's going to continue to have to make Kaladin think a bit more with his head and less with his heart, which is super feisty all the time. But that is basically about all at the minute. Yeah, let's read Words of Radiance, everyone, and we'll do another one of these bacon sessions maybe when I've read Words of Radiance. Peace out.